My name is Dr. Chitrakan Sahu, Assistant Professor in Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, MNIT Jaipur. So I think last few days you have studied about the mixed signal IC design. So I'm taking little bit some small different topics for a few sessions. Uh, I'll talk about 1 hour around regarding this, and we have some hands-on session after 1 hour. Okay, after 5 minutes of break. So this is the today's agenda. So I'll take you some of the things why we are studying all those CMOS, right? So the beginning with the first slide, if you go back to the history, you can see this is the beginning of computer era, where this is considered as a computer at that time in early uh, uh, 1800 euros. What was the cost at that time? You can say it's very early. You can say we are talking about 1956. So it is based the computer the based on the vacuum tubes. So this is very first development in the history of the computer generation. You can see this is vacuum tubes and all. The one of the scientists here, he is working here. And what was the cost at that time? It is 1800 euros, right? But what about today's age? And also you can see there are so many things required, number of relays, number of resistors, number of capacitors, the consumption of the power, that is about 15 kilowatts. So we required at least a power hub to run those computer at that time. Okay, but once it is grows, the semiconductor industries has come to the picture after the after the coming of the first MOSFET, right? So first uh, connectivity available point contact, you can say transistor. You can see here this is one of the transistor that introduced early in Bell Laboratories, okay, by William Shockley in 1947, and this is the point contact transistors. Okay, so everybody knows about the BJT. Okay, so when it was first introduced, early in 1947, but we are not using in this BJT. Why we are not using BJT for making the integrated circuits? Because it has certain limitations, right? What are the limitations? That it is non bilateral in nature, right? So here the emitter and collectors both are in the different areas, so they cannot be bilateral. But evolution of the MOSFET, it will give freedom to design integrated circuits. You can see here the next generation of electronics, the transistor revolution in 1948. So this is the first transistor, the concept of FET come into the picture. This very old picture you can see again from the Bell Labs, and the first integrated circuit in 1960s. You can see the picture here. So this will give a platform for the next generation of electronics. So because nowadays all we are talking about the CMOS. The why how the CMOS come into the picture? Because the evolution of the this NMOS and PMOS architecture in such a way that we can match it very good nature like PMOS and NMOS kind of thing, and we can integrate those things in a particular dimension to form a integrated circuits. Now you can see this is the first integrated circuit based on the bipolar logic, that is in produced by the Motorola. So have you heard about the name Motorola? Most of the students might be knowing because the Motorola gives our mobile phones, right? Still there are some mobile phones are coming from the Motorola. So this is the earlier picture. Now after that, what are the revolutions has been made? What was the first microprocessor revolution? That is Intel 4004. Okay, so if we see the curriculum structure of BTech, first what we study? We study about the some of the physics of the semiconductors in our 12th curriculum or in the first year curriculum. Okay, and then we study about different digital electronics part in the third semester, where we study about the various combinational circuits and sequential circuits. Then we study about the microprocessors, because these all are in the one chain. This is all are in one chain. Okay, so that's why just a brief overview is required. You can see that 1970s, how many number of transistor was there? 2300 transistor was there. Okay, and what was the data bus bit? 4 bit, and speed 740 kilohertz. Supply voltage is around 12 volt. And what was the technology used for making this microprocessor? Was around 10 micrometer PMOS technology was used. Okay, this is a just a brief overview. What was the earlier things was there? Okay, and you can see that what are the die area used is around 1112 millimeter square to make a compatible chip kind of thing, right? Same after the few years goes, now we are using the Pentium 4 processor. The Pentium 4 processors are again, this is the base where here we are talking about 2005. You can see that the layout, a kind of thing, a physical layout of the Pentium 4 processors. We are how many number of transistors? The important here is how many transistors we are using here? 125 millions. 125 million. So you can imagine in few year of duration, scientist and engineer were evolved so much that in the same die area of 1112 millimeter square, they are able to integrate more number of transistors. So this gives more number of transistors, will gives more number of combinational and sequential block, and after that combinational and sequential blocks, they will form the arithmetic and logic units, and arithmetic and logic units and combination of various things will make the ultimate processor to take decisions. So this is the, again you can see just a overview that what was the speed used, like what was the frequency of operation of this kind of processor was 3.8 gigahertz. Data bus width now increased from 4 bit to 32 bit. It is, I am talking about Pentium processor, not today's processor. Okay, the supply voltage is around 1.2 volt, and technology used for the CMOS technology, because important here we'll discuss about the CMOS technology. CMOS technology here that uses above 90 nanometer. Okay, so in between you can interrupt me if I am going very fast. Okay, so if you have any doubt you can ask me in between that also. Okay, so this is the Pentium 4 processor we are talking about. Most of the, I think, students are aware of that. Then after that, what are the evolution made? They have gone to the multi-core processors, right? Instead of a single core, we went for the multi-core processors. You can see the diagram here, and year 2006. So speed, you can see this is around 3 gigahertz. Data bus width was 32 bit. Supply voltage 1.2 volt, and here the technology used is around 65 nanometer technology. Okay, so why this is possible? This is possible because we are scaling the technology from 10 micrometers to 90 nanometers, and then further and so on to 65 nanometers. So number of transistor count goes increased to 291 millions. Can you imagine? There are 291 millions of transistors required to make a multi-core processors. Okay. So this is just brief overview. So how this has happened? If you just see a diagram from 2002 to 2015, see that there are some changes. What were the technology at 2002 and what are the technology in 2015 and now onwards also. Okay. So it is governed by the one law that is called Moore's law. Okay. This is economics of the Moore's law, says that number of transistor should be doubled in every 2 years of time, or 18 to 60 months of time. So this law, Moore's has given, basically this is one scientist from Intel. He has given one publication in terms of a journal publication. I think you can say the article, scientific article he has written, and he projected that after so many years of times, what will the future of electronics. So this shows the future of generation of various technology, especially related with the CMOS, because all those processors that all we are using in our mobile phone, our desktop, this is all are based on the technology of CMOS only. Okay, that's why it's became very important to learn the CMOS technology. Okay, and major turning point started is after the 28 nanometer of technology, because you can see that growth rate, but after few years of time it will almost become constant, because the Moore's law was changing from 180 nanometer to 130 nanometer. How they will change? This again there is some discussion that why it is 180 only and why it is 130 only, right? Because they follow certain procedures. It can, why it cannot be 200 nanometer, right? Some student can ask, because this is based on the previous technologies. The number came from the previous technologies, that is 130 nanometer. So we follow some scaling rules. What do you mean by scaling? Here, that scaling means if you are going to narrow down the things, are making the things smaller, that is called scaling, right? So in our tradition, the processor size or computer science, if you have seen from last few years or last about 30 years, that is going compact and more memory and more features and more reliable. So why this is possible? Because we are doubling the number of transistors, we are increasing the number of transistors in a particular ICs. So if we increase, if we are keeping the area same, so it will, number of transistors will double. If the number of transistors will double, that means we are getting more features. Like in the same area, we can design 3G module also, or 4G module, or Bluetooth module, because all those require some kind of hardwares, right? So if we are increasing the number of transistors, that means we are increasing more the feature size. We are increasing more features and more faster. If we are going for a frequency of operation, if you see that the frequency of operation is increasing, so we are going towards more powerful operations, like more speed of operations, as well as it can handle a complex task because it has that capability. So how this capability has been built? Because of integrating more number of transistors. Okay, so you can see the evolution here. This is 180 nanometer, 130 nanometer. So there was a formula that is scaling formula that is considered here. 180 nanometer especially considered to be in terms of the size of the MOSFET that we use. Which define the technology? The size of the MOSFET. What is the size of the MOSFET used in 180 nanometer technology? There are a specific some range, but if you say it is approximately 180 nanometer for the effective gate length. What is the talking about? What is effective gate length? This effective gate length is related with the NMOS and PMOS. The size of the one NMOS and PMOS is all about 180 nanometer. You can see. Okay, so means it's not visible from the eyes. We required some special nanoscope to see all those architectures. Okay, so I will also go through what are the fabrication technologies and which are the companies who are targeting and making these chips. Okay, so this is the evolution, and what are the companies those are working. Now you can see how many companies are working earlier and how many companies are working now, are almost become constant after 2015. You can see this is 0.35 micrometer technology. There are so many companies are working. Intel, Samsung, TSMC, Global Foundries. These are the basic key players, or basic industries, those who prepare the chips based on the technology. So 0.13 micrometer is one technology. Based on that, certain processor has been came into the picture. I have just shown that 90 nanometer, the Pentium 4 is 90 nanometer based of technology. where the Pentium 4 processor are making by so many companies, including Sony, NXP, Freescale, TI, and most of the companies you can see those are uh, located outside India. Okay, but they have a very big business in the India here. They have some design centers like in Bangalore and as well as Pune and Hyderabad for related work. So most of the jobs, if you talk about the job perspectives in these companies, are basically for design engineer or physical verification engineer or some testing in things tools. So you have to learn more EDO tools to get compatible to go in this kind of companies. You can see that why this is has been changed drastically, why there are companies are reducing if you show in this graph. So basically the technology is moving very fast, right? But to cope up with those technologies, the company should be ready with their manufacturing, right? Manufacturing hub should be ready to cope up those technologies, because when each technology moves, very precise manufacturing is required. If they are not able to make a precise manufacturing, means they are out of the race. Okay, so you can see there are so many companies. Even you can say if you go to the three IBM, how many have heard about IBM? Okay, most of the students have known the IBM only in the software business, but earlier they were in hardware. IBM laptops was there, right? Now this IBM laptop has been the company complete has been overtaken by the Lenovo, right? And Lenovo is the making of the hardware product in terms of laptop, but they use various they use processors from the Intel only, right? So who are the manufacturer for them? Majorly now we have a four companies are working in this domain, that is Intel, Samsung, TSMC and Global Foundry. So TSMC is a Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation. This is one of the company that prepare chips and sell to the companies like Lenovo and Dell for the making the laptops and their processors, right? So you can see that because why this graph has been reducing, the company list is reducing, because they were not able to cope up the requirement of the next generation production, right? Since I told there is a scaling of CMOS technologies, okay, because of the scaling of the CMOS technology, we required a very precise fabrication, very nano level of fabrication of the transistors. So they won't be able to manufacture so precise ICs or integrated circuits. That's why they merged with the another companies. Mean most of the where they went, actually they merged their business with these companies. Like I told IBM, IBM has gone because they merged their companies to another companies, or they won't be manufacturing it, but maybe in business they are buying it. Okay, so that's why list is going down. So what are the key major players in now? What mobile phone we are using is having one processor, right? Can you just think of that, what processor we are using in our mobile phones? Maybe mobile phones of any company, maybe Samsung or maybe Lenovo or maybe Huawei or any other. So they are also based on the technologies, especially those are based on the 14 nanometer and 16 nanometer technologies, right? And this is, I think, not up to the mark in 2020. If we talk about 2020, so Intel has launched its 10 nanometer chips. Okay, so the i7 10th generation is based on the 10 nanometer chips of operation. So 10 nanometers feature size. So what are the advantages we are getting if we are scaled down? So we have the, in terms of cost, major impact will be in terms of cost, because the your integrated circuit size is same, but we can give more functionality in the same area, right? And if you scale, then our power supply voltage also scale. So because of that, we are having a very less power of operations, right? So these are the some benefits we get while scaling of the technologies, right? So if you see the chip size, like if you say if with identical number of chips, you can say that they are reducing in size, right? So this is the CMOS chip scaling picture just shown for the representations, right? Okay. So if we see very small chips are about 13 nanometer. If you start from the this dimension, so how many chips can be there here? 16 number of chips with the CMOS compatible to, sorry, this is 180 nanometer technology compared to CMOS 32 nanometer. Just to show that in the this is the power of scaling of CMOS technologies, right? So if you see the picture, this is about the picture of very nano level pictures, okay, taken by the scientist, okay. So you can see this trend very small in size, in nanometer dimension, how it look like in nanoscope. Like this is the one of the pictures have been shown 130 nanometer, then 90 nanometer, 65 nanometer, 45 nanometer, 32 nanometer, and 22 nanometer. So mostly we are using 22 nanometer and less. I told that Intel has launched 10 nanometer chips, and again going it for they targeted for next 2 years. In 2022, they might come with the new technology that is 7 nanometer based on the 7 nanometer technology. So that is why they keep their business running, right? Every time they come up with the new technology, they will give more powerful processors. So they are in the business. If they are not able to produce or cope up, the Intel will be no more. Some other company will take lead, right? So that's why you know the Intel most, because they are still working from the last 60 years in this domain, in terms of making processors or in terms of making a small compact size of memory and all, right? So same thing what I told in processor will be applicable for the memory, okay. So what are the memory size we are using? Earlier the memory size of 1 terabyte was costing more. Now the size we are using 1 terabyte, if you are talking about the pen drive of 1 terabyte, so it's very less cost as compared to last 5 years. How this happens in terms of memory? Because this technology has been changed, and since the technology has been changed, so they can produce more number of chips with smaller dimension. Their fabrication cost will be less. If the fabrication cost will be less, you will getting the things in less cost, right? So ultimately what drives the it's just a final outcome of the economics in terms of, you can see the price per transistor goes down, and you can see the transistor count per chip increasing. So earlier the count was around, in earlier 70s it was only 10 to the power 3. We have seen in 4004 processor, its very count is around very less, 1000. Now how many number of transistor in a one chip of same dimension? It is 10 to the power 9. Can you imagine? So 10 to the power 9 is not a very small number, right? So it is a complete world, you can say this is complete world of transistor world inside the integrated circuits. And also at the same time, if you talk about the cost in dollar per transistor, is reduced drastically from the year by year, right? So this is the advantage we are using for using the Moore's law, or this is the advantage of industry going from evaluation from the last 40 years. So you can see which is the most profitable industry in the world. Like there are various domains like pharmaceuticals are there, agriculture is there. So which is the most profitable industry in the last few years? It was only the electronics industry, because of the evaluation of the semiconductor technology, especially the CMOS technologies, right? Because more number of electronics are coming from the manufacturing plant, especially the US and China. They are the key leaders in case of manufacturing plants. So they are producing more number of chips. So because of that, if you produce more number of chips and they will capture the market, and if they give with the smaller cost, so everybody buys it and it will increase the demand and their business runs. Okay, so how this possible? If you look into the inside the parameters, what are the we have just gone through the overview of scaling. So if you go inside the if you talk about some physical parameter, what are the physical parameter actually going to change after the scaling? That is called a law, that is called Dennard law of scaling. Okay, so how this lead to, let's say if somebody asks the questions that if you're going for a one technology to another technology, how much percentage of improvement in terms of power dissipation, or how much improvement in terms of speed of operations. Okay, so how it can be calculated? So it can be calculated by this scaling factor. How much, what was the scaling factor? You can see this is kappa. Okay, it seems like a K, kappa. This is kappa is a scaling factor, and this is just a picture of a MOSFET where we have the four terminal device: source, gate, drain, and substrate. So inside that you can see there are some length involved, there is some width involved, there is some oxide thickness involved, right? And there is some doping profiles, junctions are there, right? So this, and there are some dopings values are there, semiconductor dopings are there. So all those things are there, you can see. So this is possible. If you scale this dimension in correct order, then you are going to get the benefit what we discussed in the few upper slides. So if you especially talk about the dimensions, we can see what was the scaling factor used here. If you talk about the 3 dimension, especially one is the length and width, because the scaling technology has been decided by the scaling the especially length of the transistors. Okay, so 180 nanometer to next generation is a 130 nanometer. So if you divide this number 130 by 180 number, the 130 by 180, it comes around 0.7. Okay, so the kappa factor is considered to be a 0.7 in number. Okay, so if you use that number for calculating of power dissipation, so you can see from this thing that if you scale the voltage by 1 by k, right? So 1 by k is equal to you can say 0.7. You can see it's not k equal to 0.7. It is 1 by k equal to 0.7. K is greater than 1 in this scaling factor. Okay, so current will be also 1 by k. So because current is scaled, voltage is scaled, so we'll get the power dissipation equal to V into I in general notation. You can see it is equal to 1 by k square. That means 0.7 into 0.7 multiply, so that will become around 0.49. So that means 50%. So 50% reduction in the power dissipation. If you go from yes. Hello. Okay, I'm continuing. Some disturbance. So you can see that power dissipation is reduced by 50% if you go from one technology to another technology. Just a simple calculations. Similarly, I have not shown in terms of a dimension area. So what is the area? It's considered generally is the length into width. Okay. So if the length is reduced by 0.7, 70%, and again width is reduced by 70% for a one single transistor, that means overall area is width into length. That is means again 0.7 into 0.7, 0.49. That means almost 50% of the area will be saved for manufacturing the same number of transistors. Suppose we are making 1 lakh transistors for making one chip. So in the next technology, again 1 lakh transistor can be prepared with a less area. How much less area? 50% area. So also this is the predicted at the time of Moore, who has predicted Moore's. That's why we consider is a law, Moore's law, because the companies who are working in those areas like Intel, Samsung, they followed the prediction by the Moore. So that's why this number came into the picture, this different technology came into the picture, and different benefits from the technologies we are using it. Okay. So if you see single transistor, what are the elements involved in the single transistor? This is just an example of a single transistor. You can see, because if you are making any integrated circuits, okay. So physical design, if you talk about physical design of an integrated circuit, how it will come up from a physical design? That is from the only making the area, or you can say physical design means we are making layout. In technical terms, it is called the layout, right, of a transistor. So layout of the transistor, you can see this is just a red color thing. So red color thing will be represented by the gate of the transistors, and there are some cross sections are there that is represented by the drain of the transistor. So overall IC is nothing but interconnections of this layout, different layout. So if you are making up a layout of a like a SRAM, random access memory, okay. So how many number of transistors required? Number of transistors required for making a SRAM of 1 terabyte, or let's say 1 megabyte. So at least we need to know how many transistors are required for storing 1 bit of operation, 1 bit of information in SRAM cell. So any prediction from the students, how many number of transistors required store 1 bit of information in random access memories? You can write your answer in the chat box. So answer is minimum we required 6 transistors for storing 1 bit of operations. So if you have the random access memory RAM of let's say 6 GB in your mobile phone or laptop, so you can assume how many number of transistors will be there in one SRAM chip, okay. And these are some pictures, okay. So this is and what is the role of you can say a MOSFET in a particular integrated circuit, what they are doing inside the integrated circuit. So if you talk about memory, or if you talk about the processors, they are doing is only one operation. What operation they are doing? Only working as a switch, okay. So if you talk about the analog applications, they will be working as an amplifier. But in a case of a digital applications, like especially I told processors and memories, they are using only one operation, that is called MOSFET switch. They either they are on or they are off. Switch means in two state only, on or off. So by using this MOSFET configuration, we can make a complete processor. And what they are doing, they are just two operations, switch on or off. Some transistors are off, some transistors are on, okay. So now we are going towards what are the existing problems and why this CMOS is not able to now why the CMOS was able to saturate, means what are the next technology after the CMOS, okay. So for that we need to understand what are the problems associated with the current CMOS technology. So one of the major problem with the CMOS technology is, you can say this is one scale, is off state current, okay. Off state current means when the transistor is in off state, ideally they should not consume any power. You can see this is ideal switch in the dotted line. In the ideal switch, the current should be minimum, okay, but at the gate voltage equal to 0, when no gate voltage is applied. How the switch will work? When the gate voltage is VDD, it is on, okay, and when gate voltage is 0, it is off, okay. So when gate voltage equal to 0, it should not consume any current or consume any power. But because the increasing density of number of transistors and because of the scaling of the transistors, we have multiple benefits. We have, as I discussed earlier in summary, so we have advantage in terms of power, we have advantage in terms of area, we have advantage in terms of speed of operation. But what is the disadvantage? Everything that we are using will have some cost, okay. So here what is the cost? Is we are paying the cost is in dissipation, power dissipation. I am talking about the static power dissipation. What is the meaning of static power dissipation? Static power dissipation means when you are not using any functionality, okay, and still if it is consumes power, that is the problem, right? Like for example, if you have any fully charged laptop, okay, and if it is fully charged, now make it on and put it in your room for 2 and 3 days, okay, and go back and observe whether the battery will be still 100%. No. Why? Because the laptop will consume the power. So what is inside the laptop? There are processors, there are integrated circuits, right, and there are chips. So they are constantly utilizing inside the configuration and making switch in certain states. So some of the switch, like if you have 1 million of transistors, so some of the 70% of the transistors are not working and some 70% of the 30% are working. So in 70% in the off state also they are consuming a power. So that's why this battery has been drained out. So that is a problem in current technology. So to overcome these limitations, okay, so some new technology has been arises, right, that has gone beyond the CMOS technology, right. So these are the some, you can say, physical parameters if you see in terms of MOSFET, right. I'm not going into the details of physics of operations. This is just to show the picture how basically electrons inside the MOSFET will flow and what are the things happen to increase the current. Basically what was the problem with that and why the current is increased is represented by the figure, right. So here since the scaling dimension is going down, so their source and drains are very close to each other. So what is the current flow? What was the current flow called in a MOSFET? If few of electrons goes from the source side to drain side after application of some voltage, we called as a current with respect to time, because some electrons are considered as charge and charge move from one location to another location with some velocity that will form some drift current. The old physics concept come into the picture, right. So in the off state also ideally there will be not flow of electrons from the one location to another location. But because of the high electric field, since we are talking about the nano dimensions, so if we are talking about the nano dimension, if we have a 1 volt of operation also and the size of the transistor is, let's say, 10 nanometer, so what will be the electric field? 1 volt divided by 10 nanometer, right. This is very huge electric field. So because of that huge electric field experienced by the electrons, some of the electrons jump from the one location to another location, right. Even if we have a gate also, Okay, so because of that, there will be always a leakage current, and leakage current leads to the power dissipation, and that is the problem in current CMOS technology. Okay, and you can see this is about the threshold. This is just a representation of the threshold voltage, how the threshold voltage of the transistor has been decided. Again, our leakage current is inversely proportional to the threshold voltage. If you reducing the size of the dimensions or reducing the voltage, it will reduce the threshold voltage. So if the threshold voltage reduce, the current will increase. I am talking about only off current, not the on current, right? So off current is the problem in a conventional CMOS devices. So that's why after few technology they have gone. Okay. So these are some pictures. And what are the current leakage component? If we talk about some of the current, what are the contribution of the different leakage current in the MOSFET? You can see first leakage current is because of the gate, second leakage current is because of the VTH, and third is because of the junction leakage, because they have the formation of PN junction. And as you know that if we have a PN junction and if it is reverse bias, then we have a minority carriers distribution, and because of the minority carrier distribution we have the leakage current, right? So these are the various factors involved in the static leakage current. That includes gate leakage. Why gate leakage? Because it will contribute of the gate. So if the gate have certain oxide thickness, because as you know in the MOSFET architecture there are some oxide, but when you go for a scaling, scale down the oxide thickness. When you scale down the oxide thickness, even small voltage will cause a very high electric field, and because of the very high electric field there will be possibility of current flow due to tunneling. What tunneling? The special term here is tunneling of the transistor, because there is no direct path. We have an insulator. So even insulator can cause current can flow or charge can travel in the insulator if the dimension is very small and the electric field is very high. So that's why it leads to a gate leakage current. And similarly here I talked about the channel leakage. The channel leakage is again component because of the drain voltage. Okay. So drain voltage is supplied from the power supply. So power supply cannot be switched off. It has to be on always. So because of that, there are certain contribution of the leakage current. So total leakage current will be some of the individual leakage current from the gate side as well as the drain side, and one is from the substrate side. The substrate side because of PN junction from the source side as well as the drain side. Okay. So some of the points to be remembered, you can see in terms of a MOSFET devices, you can say. So controlling the VTH will leads to good I of current, right? Or you can say sustainable limit of the I of current. Increasing doping will leads to a junction leakage and I of increases. Scaling junction will increase the series resistance, that is called RS, series resistance. Then again it leads to ion reduction. So these are the some technical words, and they are interrelated with each other. Okay, so this is, you can say, red points are the cause of the problems due to the scaling. Okay, so different applications we are using here. Some applications required very high speed of operations. Some of the applications we required very high power dissipation. High speed of operations, and some required very low power of operations. You can see in the here. So that's why a different design methodology has been adopted. One is called low VTH design and high VTH design. If we have the high VTH design, that means it will leads to a low leakage current. So few applications we required a wireless, especially wireless applications where the battery is in the remote location, is always required a constraint of having a battery requirement constraint. So to consider this battery requirement, so those design should be based on the high VTH design. And second is high performance. So high performance, like our computer system should be based on the high performance. They should not compromise with the speed of operations, because we are using multiple technologies nowadays like Bluetooth and the various softwares, gaming tools, right? So that's why the performance should not be compromised. So ultimately, in a summary, we can say there are two types of design possible. One is called high performance. The high performance is based on the low VTH of operation, and one is based on the low power. The low power, those are having wireless applications that required a high VTH of design. Okay. Again, this is some basic thing you can see. This is CMOS, complementary CMOS technology. I think most of these students are aware of this complementary CMOS technology. We have NMOS pull-up network and pull-down network and their operations. Okay, this is it. Because why I am highlighting here, because we'll in the second half after the break we'll target about some of the designs, especially at the transistor level, how to make a circuit design at the transistor level, because in a previous few days you have gone through some of the designs related to ADC and DAC that you have considered directly op-amp as an input. But if you talk about the op-amp, how the op-amp can be prepared, again op-amp is the IC, and that can be prepared from the integrated CMOS again, right? So there are CMOS designs are required. So that is called the transistor level design. So we'll have some hands-on in the transistor level design. Okay. So before that, I will just go through that how it can be prepared. So this is inverter cross section. You can see this is how this you can say CMOS circuit has been built. What are the different layers involved in the CMOS design? You can see here, right? So there N plus diffusion is required. We required a P plus diffusion. We required a polysilicon. We required a metals. We required a SiO2 layer. So this shows the complete architecture of only one inverter design. One inverter is nothing but called as NOT gate, right? This is the inverter mask set, you can say, because all those fabrication technologies for making the things required a mask. Okay, in case of a fabrication technology, what portion has to be covered and what portion not to be covered. So in the physical design, all those things are there. This just a picture to represent that how it designed. Especially if we talk about one inverter, these are the different layers involved with that and their interconnection. Blue lines are for metal connections, and one is NMOS and PMOS. They are connected is by polysilicon, and again there are source drain. You can say this is source, one side source and drain, and two drains are sorted together through Y, and VDD is connected at the one side, that is PMOS transistor side, and ground is connected at the substrate side, that is for the NMOS transistor. So this is the conventional architecture we use. Okay, so now we'll come to directly what next. What are the we learned that what is the main disadvantage is leakage current. How to remove this leakage current, right? So that's why there are new technology come into the picture, that is called 3D integration, 3D technology, right? Currently what we are using in our mobile phones and our laptops, those are not CMOS. Okay, they are called as 3D transistors, and they are generated from basically CMOS only. They have extended version of the CMOS. How to remove the they have overcome the problems related with the CMOS, right? So that why it is called 3D transistors, let's say, because it's a arrangement. If you go to this next page, you can see these are the different architectures, right? Different architecture. Earlier architecture was CMOS architecture was only 2D. Okay, so that is called a planar device or 2D transistors. Now our transistors has moved from the 2D level design to 3D level design. Okay, and these are the some naming convention, and most famous out of this convention is called FinFET. I will again the name FinFET. What is the FinFET here? FinFET is the extended version of CMOS technology, having 3D integration and smaller in dimensions. Okay, so currently what technology we are using for making the memories and processors, that is FinFET technology instead of a CMOS technology. Okay, and these are the some, these all are come into the, this is all called multi-gate design, right? All the picture here shown is called multi-gate design. So CMOS has only one gate. Now after few generation of electronics, especially at the 32 nanometer level, right? 32 nanometer and next 22 nanometer and further scaling down, we use this kind of technology. This is called FinFET design, and FinFET design are robust in nature and they have lower leakage current as compared to the CMOS design. So that the problem was static power dissipation, that has been taken care by the 3D design. So this is you can say a clear understanding of a performance from CMOS to domain to tri-gate. Tri-gate is nothing called as FinFET design, right? So classical means conventional CMOS. Strain means some in between. There is one more technology come there is called strain technology, means straining the silicon ring. And HKMG, that is called high dielectric constant metal gate. HK means high and K means dielectric constant. Okay, so there are various change has happened over the CMOS. That is just show a summary of that. Okay, so current what technology we are using is of around 10 nanometers, and here the graph is shown for the 22 nanometers, right? And their performance compared to the previous one. Now you can see that effective, here you target about power I effective. So here is 0.7 volt normalized compared to that. Now you can say which if you make a different technology using 22 nanometer technology, which will give the highest performance. So you can see the yellow color highlighted will give the highest performance in terms of graph. Okay, so that's why we are using FinFET technology for making the different design in integrated circuits. Okay, and this is called the, you can see the 3D picture of a very small dimension transistors. The one is 32 nanometer and second is 22 nanometer transistors by Intel. This is taken pictures from the Intel. They started their production from 2011 onwards. Okay, so that's why I told whatever processors or memory that we are using nowadays is not based on the CMOS technology. They originated from the CMOS, but nomenclature has been changed because of the introduction of the tri-gate or multi-gate architecture. Tri-gate means 3 gates have, okay, and double gate means 2 gate. Gate all around means multiple gates. All are basically called as multi-gate technologies. So now we are using multi-gate technologies. And one more term was there, FinFET. What is the meaning of FinFET? Because the gate pattern look like a fin of the fish. Okay, that's why they named is the technology is FinFET technology. Okay, and if you talk about in terms of a performance, right? So there are some graphs have been shown here. The performance can be measured in terms of a 2 parameter that is called subthreshold swing. So subthreshold swing basically tells the how fast switching is possible in a MOSFET. Okay, if we have a subthreshold swing, ideal value is 60 millivolt per decade. So if we go towards, so we can say the lowest version is 64. So if it is, because all those things need to be read. So I am just giving the overview of different things. Okay, if you have any query, we can discuss related to this. And coming to the end of this presentation, you can see there are one company, that international organization, this is not company, international organization, that will give prediction of what will be the new technology in future generations. That is called International Roadmap, International Technology Roadmap of Semiconductor, that is called ITRS. So ITRS has given the prediction up to 2030, that what will be the future of the devices. So they have considered, this is a start of the 3D domain from 2000 onwards, means there will be large scale integrations, and end of the 2D domain. So where the FinFET start, basically where the FinFET start, CMOS end. And these are the some parameters, what will be the good parameters, what will be the power dissipation, all those things have been discussed here. Okay, so this is the just a summary of our presentation. You can see, if we go for a Intel next generation electronics from 14 nanometers, so we'll end up with the 3.8 nanometers in 2030. So scaling might be in between 2021 to 2030, but it is not the end of the Moore's law. Better architectures, just like a design of 3D circuits kind of things coming into the picture. So it is expected that we'll going to continue the scaling further. Okay, and in summary, what are the advantages we have learned? First is the Moore's law, where the size is reduced by 50%, or length is reduced by 0.7 in every 2 years. Second, despite the trends, Intel developers managed to improve the performance. And then third is that tri-gate transistors, that is the major advancement in the field of electronics, and we are currently using it. And fourth is the fundamental law of limitations, that scaling leads to around, because when you go further scaling beyond the 3.8 nanometers, that will become an atomic scale, right? So silicon will not be able to cater the nature, because we know that there are two types of nature, that is called particle nature and wave nature. So when you go into the smaller dimension, the wave nature also coming into the picture. So that's why it is predicted that the scaling can go up to 3.8 nanometers only. Okay, and these are the some CMOS technology we have discussed. These are the things required CMOS technology for making the applications over the years. This is the summary of my presentation. Okay. I think I can stop here. If you have any question answer, we can take that, sir.